back to bed, America. Your government is in control again. Here, watch this. Shut up. You are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you.
I don't have a poem, but I do have my story that I'd like to share with you all. It might impact somebody. I'm a 15-year veteran from the military. I served in Iraq for 15 months. I served 1 month in Kuwait, 4.5 years in South Korea. And although my career that I served up until 15 months ago had many, many trials and tribulations, there's the last 5 years that I just want to tell you about. So after spending 4.5 years in South Korea, I moved to Hawaii, which most people would not consider a punishment. And there I was going to have my first child, a daughter. Around that time, the earthquake in Pakistan happened, and I was assigned to be part of a unit to go do relief in Pakistan. The military looked at me and said, "Are you having a child?" I said, "Yes, my wife is." And they said, "It's your first child." And I said, "What difference would it make?" And they said, "Because if it was your second child, you would be deploying. The Army only allows you to witness the birth of one child in case they need you to do something. So because it's your first child, you won't need to go somewhere, and we'll let you stay here to witness the birth of your child." So fortunately, I got to see my daughter being born. After my daughter was born, we named her Sophia. And sometime thereafter, by the time she was 6 months old, I deployed to Iraq. 3 months later, I came back, and I got to see her first steps. I left again. 15 months later, I finally came back, and she was 2 years old. Shortly after that, we moved from Hawaii to Fort Eustis, Virginia, and I started to have many, many things change within myself. I was a very physical person. I was very, very fit. Suddenly, I failed my first physical fitness test in 14 years. I found that I couldn't breathe. My jaw was tight. I developed asthma. I had nerve damage in my elbows, nerve damage in my neck. My hips were messed up. My feet were messed up. My right knee was damaged. I was having trouble with my sight, and about 26 other things that were wrong. Large cysts in my wrist and in my hand. Around that exact same time, I started to experience massive amounts of anger, withdrawal, not knowing why I felt that way. And I would look at myself and I would see the routine that I was living after my experience in Iraq at home, and it mirrored what I did every day I came home in Iraq. As a result, I looked at my child and my wife often had to push me out the door to spend time with my daughter because of how I felt after coming back from my experience. Oftentimes, after that, I would thank her for kicking me out of the house and forcing me to spend time with my own child. This gorgeous thing that we had created together, that every moment that I looked at her, I thought she was the most amazing thing ever on this planet, and I couldn't understand why it is that I didn't want to spend time with her, why I wanted to sit on the couch and do nothing, why I wanted to go upstairs on the computer and surf the internet, why it was that I was angry all the time. Around that time, my wife developed a medical condition, and she had to have surgery. Turns out the military no longer covers a lot of the things that people used to think the Army covered. As a result, I had to pay $41,000 out of pocket that I did not have to pay for medical procedures for my wife that the military would not cover. Shortly after that, I went to try to apply for emergency funds from a place called Army Emergency Relief. It's a place that basically takes donations from soldiers and holds the money, so in case a soldier's in an emergency and financial trouble, they will give the money to the soldier in the form of a grant or a loan, and then you can either pay it back or they can say you don't have to pay it back. When I told them what my financial situation was, they said we don't cover catastrophic medical procedures. That same month and that same year, an article was posted in the Army Times about how the $19 million they had raised and put into the stock market, 50% of it magically disappeared when the bubble burst. And that was all soldier money that they had taken to give back to soldiers, supposedly for their own benefit. So after that, and still struggling with my PTSD and trying to figure out what to do with myself with my daughter, one day my wife called and my daughter picked up the phone. She was 3. And she said, "What's Daddy doing?" And she said, "Daddy's on the computer again." And when I heard my daughter say that, it made me even more furious at myself because I felt inescapably trapped. And I couldn't free myself to enjoy this child that we had created. So I called her into the hallway after I heard that. I turned the computer off, I got on one knee, and I looked her in the eye, because I didn't believe in looking down at my daughter when I spoke to her. So I got on my knees and I looked her in the eye and I said, Sophia, and I always spoke to her in ways that she could understand. And I said, Daddy's sick. And I grabbed her fingers and I said, up here. And I said, Daddy loves you. But he's really sick. And I'm going to take medicine. And I'm going to go see a doctor. So that I can feel better. But I want you to know that I love you. So after that, I signed up to see a counselor. And my doctor asked me, do you want to take some antidepressants while you wait to see a counselor? I said, yes. So I took the antidepressants. 2 weeks later, it was a Friday. I was an instructor at the United States Army and Aviation Logistics School. And my friend was talking to me and I told him, you know what? Things can change at any moment. Change can happen just like that. You know, we never know what the future holds. That was that Friday. And that Sunday, my daughter was supposed to be baptized at 1:30. I went to the baptism. And that night she was dead. So suddenly, everything I had worked for, signing a new contract, going into debt, going to see a counselor, taking meds, all out the window. My daughter got sick suddenly. The paramedics didn't know what the hell they were doing. She got to the hospital. As a father, as a parent, you have instincts. You can look at your child and you know when something's wrong. And I listened to that doctor and he told me all these things and I believed it even though I looked at my child and I knew what was wrong with her. She had been brain dead for over 4 hours already and they kept telling me she was going to be fine. They transferred her to a children's hospital. The children's hospital tells me she's neurologically devastated. She's gone. So I came to terms with that in a matter of hours.